Hey, it's Chris. Don't buy it. Don't do it. You shouldn't do it. Don't do it. I'm telling you, don't listen to me, right? Haha. Retail. Games that are hot at the retail side of things. August 2024. What they are, what they're about, and why you should not buy them this month. Hype over, grass is greener. Let's go, baby. First up, right? At the time of me filming this, I don't even have my copy, but we're going to start off with Marvel United Multiverse, right? The expansions are even at retail now. We just saw the whole promo thing with San Diego Comic-Con and Gen Con, right? This is a great starting point. This is a great starting point if you're looking into this. But if you're not new, this should not be, especially the core game, any sort of shape or form, something you're looking at, right? Because the truth of the matter is, as much as I love this game isn't going to be right for a lot of people. It's a lighter style, cooperative, lay your card down, use actions from the previous player, randomly flip up a bad guy card, and see what happens. And the villains are variable. They're difficulty all over the place. You get a bad draw or two, and you're just playing, frankly, screwed. You start off in the wrong location. You have a wrong enemy that matches up perfectly with the heroes that you've chosen because you weren't paying attention or looking at it from that aspect because you just want to have fun and you don't want to strategize and, meta game beforehand, right? It's gonna just frustrate you, and that's okay. You don't like the little miniatures. You think the miniature chibi style things are horrible. You don't like Simon's exclusive practice, whatever it may be, right? It's not for you. And that is the other side of things, right? That you shouldn't get it at retail because you're going to miss out on a lot of exclusives. To be frank, if you're going to buy it at this point, you buy someone else's pledge. You buy someone else's copies of the Kickstarter exclusive editions that you missed because you're going to be missing a little bit of FOMO grass is greener content that way. That's why you don't buy it at retail. Twist, spin, he gotcha. Anyway, but that is by far and away the thing that I'm most interested in at the same time because I've got my pledge coming. And again, filming this, telling you not to get it, don't even have mine, still waiting. Okay, so that one is all over the place there. I'm super excited, but also, again, not going to change your mind. Speaking of things, and we'll just stay right with that as the theme here with the first couple. Star Wars: The Deck Building Game, right? Clone Wars Edition, FFG. You're just randomly drawing Star Realm style, putting stuff out in the middle and deciding on whether or not you want to buy it, explode it so your opponent can't get it, or whatever else along the way, right? You blow up your opponent's base 3 times and you win. You can apparently mix and match them together. Again, this is going to be just a reskinned version of the first one. So it's not going to give you the nuance that you're looking for in a upgraded, more evolved deck builder, if you will. And the other criticism that I have to dare wager that is going to be levied at it is if you want to use both of these, right? Like I want to. My fear is all you're going to do is smash these 2 giant decks of cards together, and it's going to make the randomness even more chaotic. And is that really going to be compatible in a 2x2 situation, or is it even going to work in a 1x1 situation? Again, I don't even think there's rules out at the time of me filming this. So that'd be my fear, is that it's just more pick your poison Clone Wars. And Clone Wars, I mean, come on, FFG, of all the things that you could have gone into, right? I know, because you're doing a much better side of things. You're sort of half-ing it compared to Star Wars Unlimited is what it feels like, to be frank. You can see where all of the resources, time, and effort are going with the balance that's going with Star Wars Unlimited in the first place comparatively. This is just sort of getting it, it's not making us godzooks some money, so we're not going to put the effort. That's at least what it appears on the surface. Prove me wrong. I would be happily wrong. I'm probably going to own a copy of this at some point. But am I going to be happy with it? I don't know. The other reason you shouldn't get it is it's playing off the nostalgia for Star Wars more than anything else for people like me, which is why, again, I just said I don't think I should own it, but I will. And I hate myself for that already. Let's just stay with Star Wars, though. Let's just stay with the nostalgia kick, because Mandalorian Adventures, from the same designer that brought you the Initiative, right? these individual solo campaign-ish scenarios, or whatever you want to do back and forth, right? You can link them together, is what I was trying to say there, or you can kind of play them as one-offs. Because I feel like these types of games are the worst value as a whole, because you either have to just completely go through them all together. Like if I get out Spirit Island, or if I get out any of these games behind me, right, and I play it once or twice, the resale value is going to be what, like, let's just say 60-70%. Ballpark it low, because that's realistically what you get for selling games. People who are trying to get 80 and 90%, those people don't sell games. That's why you see the same lists posted all over the place, the same amount of time from the same people. They have to get essentially that 85th, 90th percentile of what they paid for, and if they can't, well, they just don't, and then they go, oh, I don't want to keep it, but I'm not willing to, again, anyway, side tangent, squirrel. But that's where I'm going with this, is that if you play a game like this once or twice, right, like Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, or the Pandemic Legacy that's sitting behind, the camera on the Calyx, you're just not going to get it. People are going to look at this sort of pseudo scenario campaign-esque game, and maybe it's not going to be that way. Maybe it's going to trend more towards your Destinies, where, okay, well, it is scenario driven, or it's like an unlock, but I don't know. Like, I just feel like, again, perception versus reality. The reality of it is it's more like an escape room, right? The perception sometimes I feel like is more like the legacy with this. And so you don't have people willing to bite, right? And that's the issue, right? You're going to lose $20 off the resale value of Pandemic Legacy if it's opened. Just perception. Not that anything's different. Not that you should really be concerned about that, but that is the reality of looking on a daily basis on the sales sides of things on social media, Facebooks, Reddits, Board Game Geeks, that people do and just practice. That's their practice. So I say that as someone who literally does that every day. I'm talking from firsthand experience here. So that is that. The other one that I've kind of already touched on once or twice is Windmill Valley. The next one from Board and Dice, right? That is the hotness. That was one of the hottest ones earlier in the month at Gen Con. And it's getting a wider retail release, I believe, right now, which is kind of crazy because we don't always see that with the Gen Cons. How do you feel about, well, the Dutch? Tulips, planting tulips, windmills, hiring, local market, sort of Feldian-esque multi-use card variable mechanisms as a whole from the designer of the more recent, that you will recognize, Barcelona, which is also getting an expansion this year as well, Danny Garcia. But that's sort of very similar to, say, Barcelona, just to compare it to that, right? Not that you can't have this, but it's like when I'm looking at cooperative games right now, when I'm looking at card games right now, when I'm looking at whatever insert your mechanism game, I'm looking at the ones that I already have in my collection comparatively. And I'm going, will I play this over the similar one? Not immediately, because I will immediately, right? You're me, I'm you, you're not, I'm not talking for you though, right? But will you play it more if it stays around over the other ones with so little information out there? And granted, by the time you're even watching this, I guarantee, a bunch of people smarter than me with better opinions than me will have videos that you can look at and say, is this right for me? There's so much in the middleweight Euro theme side of things that unless you're going thematically, wait and see. This has a classic, if this is really good, going back to last year's Gen Con, right? 3 Ring Circus. Did you buy that game? Did you try and get it? Did you hype it? If you remember the hype around that, it was hot for a couple months. And then guess what? I haven't heard a peep out of anyone, anywhere, anything in the last 6 to 8 months on it. I also didn't see it on anyone's top 10 list, at least the very few ones that I saw, right? Good game. Not noteworthy though. Good game. So that is what I worry about with a game like this, which is why I say, again, it's going to retail. You're not missing out on anything. Wait 6 months. I know it's going to kill you to wait 6 months, but wait 6 to 8 months on this game. Put it on your Board Game Geek wish list. Only trade for it if you have the opportunity, or otherwise put it on your, I have a birthday coming next spring list for your person that buys your games, whether that's yourself or someone else, right? Take that for what you will. Speaking of that, though, let's go with the other one. Cities, right, from Devere. the one that didn't get all of the hype, right? Conundrum. Just like when I talked about the retail from last month in July, is that one of the games I covered there was From the Moon. And I was reading the description, I'm looking at it, I'm seeing how the mechanics evolve, spacefaring, slight 4X, slight, Euro style. And I go, all those things I just said, right? How many games generically would that describe recently, right? Ooh. So when I say that in this case as well with cities, you're tile laying to build a city. Yes, there's more going on. You can stack the tiles up on top of each other. But if you're looking at it just on surface value, how can you differentiate, right? Like when I play the 2-player head-to-head duelers, right? It's sometimes really hard for me to figure out how much I'm going to like it until I actually play it. Because the descriptions nowadays for those sort of things are so overlappingly similar, right? Like your dungeon crawls. It would be really nice if somebody, myself, made a diagram saying on this dungeon crawl, it checks all of these boxes in this row, column up here with the game, row over here, the aspects of the game that it has. And you just said, okay, well, this is Chronicles of Drunagor going down. I can see which of these I want and which of these I don't want. Here's Madara. Here's Kingdom Death Monster. Here's Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Here's Zombie. Like, that would be helpful. And I feel like with the 2-player duelers, with this style of games, that's the biggest challenge of saying, okay, am I going to like it? Or is it going to be a little bit Rolling Heights? Gives me a little bit lighter vibe like that. It's going to be too random in some of those ways as well. So again, it has try before you buy written all over it. Because when I got into this hobby, right, I thought Suburbia was the end all be all civ, city building game that I wanted to. And then, you know what? I watched a couple people play it and I said, oh my gosh, I do not like it whatsoever, right? And that has this written all over it because it might just be too light for you, especially if you are more of a Devere heavy. Or it might surprise you. But either way, see advice from Windmill Valley. 6 months, 8 months from now, are you still that interested? There you go. The first one that we've been seeing on the hotness now for a couple weeks, River of Gold, right? This one from Office Dog, and it's bringing you the spine of the world mountains, your river merchants traveling along, allied with samurai clans, right? You expected me to go there when I was talking about mountains right away. How are you going to invest? Metaphorical gold, folks. Metaphorical, right? Dice rolling, market, worker placement, contracts. Have I said anything so far that is telling you why you should get this game? Something that's going to make it unique. Something that, again, is going to make it stand out in its, heyday comparatively to others in that same sense so far. The description, the thematic, the weight, people are sort of pseudo-commenting like it's a little bit on the lighter side of things, right? 2.78 puts it just maybe above a slightly different thematic incorporation of, say, a Lords of Waterdeep, but using a D6 as part of your worker placement mitigation, or depending on what section of the river you can go to, roll a die, move down the river, get your resources, mitigate along the way. Is that too simple for, those are fighting words there, roll and move, right? Not mine. Several comments, several reviews have already sort of put that out there. Again, if you're looking for something heavier, this is probably going to be a pass. And we'll stay with this one because Bezier also put out a re-implementation of a game called Of What's Left called Seers Catalog, with a little pun there, obviously. You're probably like me and you barely remember when Seers Catalogs came in the mail. But with the play on this of a shedding style card game, right? Get rid of almost all of the cards in your hand, but you have artifacts that are going to give you abilities to do that. When somebody runs out, well, then the round is scored. Again, this is one of those where, is it going to be as straightforward, or is it going to be more convoluted in its simplicity, right? When somebody goes out, round is scored. Each card left has -1. But if you have 5 or fewer cards, the lowest value on those cards is worth positive points, it says. 5 or fewer cards, though, you can no longer pass. So you have to hold on to high value cards, hoping for a big payout or high risk, high reward, right? That sounds like it should be one of those that, oh, that sounds intriguing. Ooh, that sounds straightforward. Ooh, there's a little bit of nuance, like Scout, if you will. But I also just worry that it's a little bit also too convoluted, even when I'm saying that explanation out loud, right? I'm not grasping it 100%. So that's going to be the trick. Is that going to be too much, just enough, or kind of in between, right? Like I compare that maybe to Ghosts of Christmas. I love the idea of that. I think the execution was okay. And I brought it to a family gathering of trick takers. And all the trick takers around the table said, no, this is too a little bit convoluted for us. Just misses something. And it's not that you can put your finger on it necessarily before you get it played, or you play it with other people who aren't as, used to this. And that's what I worry about, right? Like I can teach Scout to anybody. I can teach Oriflamme to anybody. I can teach the game to anybody. This is just a little bit different enough to make people scratch their heads and get more confused and confuddled, rather than the, ooh, this is tricky, I like it sort of light bulb that goes off. And it's a fine line between those two. And it's going to cost you the price of shipping, though, at the same time. So you can, but again, it's one of those games, too, that I'd say, just because it's that cheap, I see that all the time with like the Game Nerd sale, where they put all these games on sale on the website and they reveal every one, 30 minutes or an hour apart, or a couple an hour, whatever it may be. And people are snapping these up, not because they're games they really wanted, but because it's a good deal. Don't fall in that trap. Another one that I am actually relatively high on, expectation-wise, but also being very reserved. The OP is reskinning, redoing-ish Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. And they're giving us a great other theme to go along with it, with Avatar The Last Airbender, right? Avatar The frickin' Last Airbender. Kids love it. I love it. But Aang's Destiny, what is truly going to be different with this game, right? Mitigation in this game originally is just not good. Scaling is just not really there well at all. And so the heroes themselves also kind of are lackluster. It needs an expansion or two. It needs a way to shuffle the market. And it just, I don't like either of those aspects, right? So there's a lot of criticisms, as much as that game could have been really good. Now you get to go along, defeat your adversaries, and this is the different, right? You're going to have objectives that you're going to be completing along the way with competing against the bad guys, making your way through, obviously, the 4 nations in order to restore the balance and fulfill Aang's destiny, right? But they're going with a very similar setup, with the 7 boxes of unlockable story, increasing the challenge in the game content, and slowly adding and adding and adding, which is really, I love that mechanic, actually, because it makes it really easy to explain to my kids. So that is awesome, but you're bending, you're recruiting allies, and you're gathering items. Does that mean everybody's going to be a bender? What if you're a non-bender character and you get bending cards from the market? Like, is that going to be a thing? Is that going to be something you're going to have to worry about as well? And this is per OP Games' website, releasing at the end of the month. So we'll see, because there was some conversation. Maybe it wasn't going to also be at this point, but I think it's going to be interesting to say, okay, well, how much have you addressed the criticisms? Or is this not really going to be that much different? Is it not going to make it better? Because you could have a really great Dark Horse intro level family, but slightly gamier gamers game as well with this one. And that would be my concern, is that if you just don't do that, well, I could see it kind of falling a little bit flat. And I'd really like to see something along those lines, right? It reminds me of all of the Blank Rising games, right? Have not gotten the impression from a lot of the stuff I've read, watched, and heard that really, if you've got one, you've kind of pseudo got them all. Not enough on each of them, apart from a theme, to make you really want to get more than one, or feel like it's a different experience enough. Say what you will about even Marvel United, right? But more so in this. And that'd be my fear, right? You're not going far away from the Harry Potter original to make this. And so that's why I'd say, let's wait. That's why I'd say, okay, well, what are you going to do with this? Because Harry Potter, you put out the charms, you put out the monsters. What are you going to do with Avatar, right? I would assume you've got some sort of business plan, because it's Avatar, right? That should be milking money. Kind of wonder why they didn't do a box for each nation anyway. Not to give ideas, but that'd be my question is, do you need the expansion? And again, if you need the expansion, why pick up the base game right now if you're not going to like it by itself in that way, shape, or form? Then we have the next Ticket to Ride. Yes, another iteration, South Korea and Iberia, both offering a slight twist on the regular Ticket to Ride, if you will, where you're going to be drafting destinations and getting festival tokens in one and color pattern matching in the South Korean version. Should you get it? Well, no, it's not terribly different than a Ticket to Ride. Is it maybe a slightly better, less cutthroat Nordic version? Yeah, but it's not bringing you anything dramatically different than you haven't already seen before. And allegedly, the places on the map are just not as easy to find as you might like, because you're probably not as familiar with Iberia or South Korea as you probably should be. You know, it's just not going to give you that much of a variance unless you are a hardcore Ticket to Ride person in the first place. Otherwise, this one is just one among the many of, well, pick your poison or pick whichever one you prefer geographically, locally, locale, whatever it may be along those lines in the first place. There's not much else to say with this, right? It's Ticket to Ride. Draft your cards, make your routes, and you've seen it time in, time out with other versions of it. So, you know what? You want a good 3-player count? Yeah, go for this. If you don't have any affiliation, though, with it in the first place, your mileage may vary. So there you go. That's August. Don't buy it at retail. It's a nice month. Shorter, sweet, and also sweet, right? So let me know. Are you tempted by anything? What is going to get on your shelves this month? Is it going to be retail? You have crowdfunding? It's all over the place. Stuff delivering? Going to be a great month. Have a great day. Subscribe. I always forget to say that. Just thanks for watching either way. I have nothing quippy or fun here at the end. I'm done. Have a great, fantastic freaking day. Peace out.